What made you lose faith in humanity? Gestures vaguely in all directions. Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming and all-encompassing and has been for quite a while. Sounds about right. The whole COVID pandemic made me see that the average person is really dumb with zero critical thinking skills. Half the people are dumber than average. GC. Bro, just being on this subreddit for more than 5 minutes gets you to that same conclusion. The pandemic taught me people are more selfish and unwilling to change things to improve how their life works than I ever realized. I thought people said humans are adaptable. The pandemic taught me our economic systems have made us unflinchingly stubborn to adapt to new scenarios long term. COVID showed me that many intelligent people with good critical thinking skills have horrible critical reading skills. What good is critical thinking when most of your prior knowledge is based on chain emails, Facebook posts, anonymous Reddit comments, and articles written by non-experts? I was extremely optimistic about humanity up until the COVID situation and shutdowns. A lot of selfish and awful behavior, as well as no lessons being truly learned from the situation. A lesson was learned: people are selfish when they perceive panic. When I was 11, I was severely injured in a hit-and-run, after a car ran a stop sign and ran me over. As I laid in the intersection, nobody stopped to help. I laid there for several minutes before I realized nobody was stopping to help. I walked the rest of the way home bleeding all over and still nobody gave a shit. I realized then the average person is probably a piece of shit. I yelled, "Walk it off," as I drove by. Glad to see my advice worked. Jesus. Where did you grow up? I had a similar incident a few years back. I slipped on black ice and fell backwards. Laid there for a minute before I realized nobody was gonna come help. Got up and drove to the ER. A good majority of people out there are selfish assholes. Bystander effect is too common. I have dreams where I need help and no one even stops to look at me. It's horrible. Sorry you had to experience this. I remember hearing something similar about a woman who was brutally tortured and left for dead in the road. A truck came by and saw her but was too afraid to help her. Luckily another car came by and immediately came to her aid, but that could have been the end for her, and they possibly never would have caught the culprit. I decided long ago that I'd always be the one to speak up or help someone who was in dire need like that. Hopefully people who read your comment decide the same. That's insane. When I was around 11, I was bumped by a car at a stop sign. He stopped but didn't see me when he started to go. I was totally fine, but not only did the driver stop, but like 3 other cars also stopped to make sure I was okay. I was embarrassed by all of the attention. Scammers who prey on the elderly. Scammers who prey. My parents panic over every scam attempt. This text message says I owe them a charge for a sofa on my MasterCard on Amazon. Do I need to visit this link they sent me? Obviously fake, please ignore it. Seeing the way people treat each other online and in real life. Yeah, I used to have these 2 colleagues who I considered to be my best friends. One day, I walked by and accidentally found out that he was texting with the other saying how stupid and weird I am, because he left his computer's screen on and went somewhere else. I scrolled down the chat history, and it seemed like mocking me and laughing at everything I do was like their hobby, and they all smiled and waved at me every day before and after that happened. I faked my smile too. Traffic is the closest thing to online behavior in real life. Nobody would be allowed to cut in a queue, but if it's traffic and they're in their Tesla, then they feel totally confident about illegally passing on the shoulder and cutting in at the last moment. Every political debate on Reddit. Mass debating makes me very tired. People in traffic that do crazy stuff just to get to their destination 30 seconds earlier. I've timed it. Drive easy versus like a maniac. Minimal difference in arrival times. When I was sick with cancer, no one really asked me how I was doing. Everyone chickened out. And when I got better, people treated me like I was the disease. They still do. Please check up on the people you know if they get cancer. It's very lonely. Hey, how are you doing? Sandy Hook. Came here to say this exact same thing. The day we decided children were an acceptable loss was the turning point for me. My outlook on humanity as a whole has only gotten worse since then. I heard about it on the radio and had to pull over the truck I was driving for work and compose myself. Couldn't even remotely wrap my head around that being reality. I did have a sliver of hope that we hit a tipping point. Maybe this time we'll get actual change. How could we not after this? Nope. We will never have sensible gun laws in this country. This. And as if the mass murder of small children wasn't bad enough, the absolutely vile accusations and conspiracy theories about it being faked. Imagine your 5-year-old being gunned down at school, and in the midst of your grief, you get attacked by whack jobs who say you're lying about it, that your child never existed, and your family pictures that include that child were faked. Absolutely disgusting. I once saw a woman begging in the streets with her 3 toddlers. I was waiting for a bus when a guy came to them with a full pizza he had bought for the woman and her kids. The woman slammed the pizza on the floor and started yelling at the guy, saying she wanted money, not pizza. She wanted money for drugs. Similar thing happened to my dad in the NYC subway. He saw a homeless guy on the stairs with a cup for change. My dad didn't have food or any bills with him to give the guy, so he gave him what he had. 4 quarters. The guy immediately took the change out the cup and whipped the coins across the staircase and started cursing and yelling about how he didn't want some fucking quarters and blah blah blah. Everyone is talking about COVID and politics, but I lost faith long ago when I realized I was the only one washing my hands in a public restroom. Drug cartels and violent gangs deliberately killing and maiming small children. Working in retail. This needs to be higher up. Everyone should have to spend time working retail or as a server to see what pricks people can really be. Would give most people a wake up. Some will still be pricks. The day a £70 10-year-old rape victim was called a murderer for having an abortion. And people started debating whether it was actually rape. And the governor of that state still refuses to acknowledge that existed. Keeps brushing it off. The fact that someone could be dying in the street and the first instinct is to pull out a phone to take a video. The pandemic brilliantly showcased who humanity can easily live without. It also showed that humanity in general is selfish, self-absorbed and stupid as fuck. I give us a few more 100 years before we extinct ourselves. The 1% rules the world. Companies had record profits, and the 1% is filthy rich. Essential workers were dying to keep the world moving, and the thanks they got, which is meaningless, was, they are heroes. Fuck that shit. Influencers. The rise of influencers really accelerated the growth of my disdain for humanity. People doing stupid challenges that could restore them to getting sick, injured or dying. When I discovered that climate crisis is unavoidable only because tackling it means that some billionaires will lose some money, and that the entire political and economical system is rigged by capitalists, so you really can't tackle it in a global scale. Debt and growth mindset. Of course, the elite, already knows that the world is going to shit in less than 100 years, since the 70s, but they chose to hide the problem, instead of trying to fix the system. The rich will be the very last affected because they'll have the means to ignore the impact on the rest of us. The amount of people that think Tucker Carlson tells the truth. My husband abandoning our family because he got bored. If you can't have faith in the one person who you are supposed to be able to depend on above all others, what's the point having faith in anyone? I'm so sorry that happened to you. It fucking hurts so bad. Especially when you have kids and your spouse destroys their family on purpose. I peeked at your other comments. It seems this happened recently. When my husband of 14 years decided to destroy his family so he could fuck a 20-year-old coworker, I was absolutely devastated. Somehow I found this website called Chumplady that has a caring community of infidelity survivors. The people there literally saved my life. Please take a peek. It's been 7 years now, and I can tell you with all honesty, after I processed my grief fully, I was able to start a new life that is happier now than it ever was while I was with my ex. Our child is thriving and happy. We are okay. We made it. Hugs, * from an internet rando. The murder of Junko Furuta. She was a 16-year-old Japanese girl who underwent 44 days of rape and torture before dying in the hands of her captors on November 22, 1989. The perpetrators were 4 male teenagers: Hiroshi Miyano, Joe Augura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe. Despite the mountain of evidence against them and the grisly torture of Junko Furuta, the boys received shockingly light sentences. Hiroshi Miyano was sentenced to 20 years, Shinji Minato received a term of 5 to 9 years, Joe Augura was sentenced to 5 to 10 years, and Yasushi Watanabe received a term of 5 to 7 years. I read the Wikipedia article about that. It was horrid. How everybody responded to the pandemic. Shameful and disgusting. I hope we all lie to our grandchildren so they don't have to look at us in horror. Watching people who aren't resisting get murdered or brutalized by police only for bootlickers to say, they shouldn't have resisted. Humans. I think I lost all hope when I saw that people were making those videos crushing small animals on the internet. Working in a call center. Killed any faith I had left. Every time I have to leave the house. Pretty much when people started ignoring professionals and scientists and started doing their own research. 9/11. I saw a label for hemorrhoid suppositories that said, "Not for oral use." Constant wars and murders. Instead of uniting and spreading out into space, we are more divided than ever and probably will kill each other off with nukes. We would rather spend money on weapons than curing cancer. I work with 3 to 4-year-olds in preschool. Every year we have more and more kids coming in not potty trained. It's getting worse. Not better. We talked about installing a changing table and diaper genie. I don't think I've been lower on humanity when I was calling for quotes. Some kids have legitimate issues. But the problem is 80% of these kids probably could have been potty trained by 2.5. And now I'm sending some to kindergarten in diapers. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a defining moment so much as a gradual wear down, or fighting an uphill battle. The real defining moment is when you figure out if you give a shit about humanity or not. It took a bit, but I gave up in 2016. The planet is poisoned, the wealthy control everything, and the people are too stupid to do anything about it. Most of us deserve to die. 2020. The last 7 years. Trump's election. The fact the abortion is once again illegal. I don't want to say much more that my dad did some horrible stuff to me as a kid. I have been left physically and emotionally scared. He did this all because I was more feminine than my brothers, and he didn't like that. When you're the odd one out, most don't respect you and put it out of their way to hurt you. School shootings, thoughts and prayers don't do shit. Offering something for free on Craigslist. On my way home from work, I was walking on the sidewalk when I saw bystanders busy filming with their phones. I thought there was a local celebrity or some famous TikToker, but as I get closer, few concerned citizens are swaying the crowd and one of them is shouting to call an ambulance. There was an injured motorcyclist with his blood all over the floor. My first thoughts was, bystander effect. And I resumed walking towards home.